Assalamu alaikum viewers, a very warm welcome to today's guest speaker session. I'm Zubier Khan and today we are going to have a very important topic. But before that, let me introduce to CXO Global Forum, NICAT, and to our guest speaker. So on behalf of NICAT and CXO Global Forum, let's start today's discussion. At NICAT, our mission is to empower startups through innovation, learning, and community support in collaboration with CXO Global Forum, a premium platform connecting C-level leaders across Pakistan and beyond. We are excited to bring industry experts directly to our entrepreneurial community. Today, we are honored to have with us Mr. Faisal Sheikh, a seasoned marketing and communications professional with over 25 years of experience. He has led digital transformation strategies for companies in telecom, finance, airlines, and FMCGs, helping brands shift successfully from offline to online. The topic for today is digital first, how startups can shift mindsets and budget from offline to online. This is especially relevant for early stage businesses looking to build a strong digital presence and scale cost effectively. So let's meet and greet Mr. Faisal. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum salam, Zubia.
So how are you doing today?
Not bad at all, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well as well. So first of all, thank you very much for sparing some time for today's guest speaker session.
No problem, my pleasure.
So, Mr. Faisal, now I would request to please share your insights on today's topic.
Okay, just to give you a little bit of background on myself, I've been in this field for almost 25 years. So, core focus has been marketing and communication. My specialization was in using data in marketing activities long time ago, but that time has come to fruition now. And in Pakistan, we're beginning to realize that there is no option available if you're not using digital. Now, this is especially important to businesses that are starting up, have limited resources, and want to make an impact with minimal spends. The key here is access. So, if you look at some of the numbers that have been, again, you can visit. There are a bunch of open sources where you can go and find data on marketing, on connectivity, and you can start combining those. Use a little bit of intellect to create that winning formula for yourself. So if you just look at the dynamics of the Pakistani population, we've got about 250 million people in the country. Majority of them are young. Yes, that's a fact, and that is what makes our market a lot more attractive and lucrative for new businesses, for foreign investments, and people starting their journey and the entrepreneurial spirit. For 250 million people, if somebody wants to take a wild guess on how many people use mobile phones, that would be great. But I'll put that number out just for you, and you can double check these numbers on a regular basis on the PTA website. So about 198 million mobile SIMs have been issued in this country. So 250 million population, 198 million SIMs. And if you look at the national statistics, average number of people per household is 6. And again, this is leaning towards the younger side of the audience. So that's a whole lot of mobile phones and connectivity access into households. So if you look at it, if you average the number of households, roughly about 35 million households exist in this country. That means each and every household, based on statistics, is connected to the grid. So they have at least 3 mobile phones per household. And that is a huge number. And looking at how the population dynamics work with a younger population and under 18 population doesn't really mean that people are not accessing information online. That means people are connected. Simplest explanation is anybody who has kids or have kids around them, what do the first thing parents do? Whenever the kid is making noise or you're in a social setting, first thing you do is take out your phone, put YouTube or a video on and hand it to the kid. Hey, sit down in a corner, watch the video. Now that creates the opportunity to access that level of audiences. In the old days, so if we go back 20, 25, 30 years, we had limited number of TV channels, uh, limited amount of information used to flow. So you used to sit in front of a box with a timetable saying at 9 p.m. you will be watching news. And that was it. So between 9 and 10, adults of the family would be in front of the box, probably having food, maybe having a little bit of conversation on the side. But overall, the thing was you were glued to a TV set to find out what really happened during the last 24 hours. That was the amount of update you would get. But at the same time, it was of no interest to younger audiences. So our population dynamics, even with a high growth rate, we still were leaning towards a younger population. So even if you look at it today, how many 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds, even 20-year-olds are interested in current affairs or the affairs of the politics? All they would watch news for is highlights from the cricket match. Now you can go online and create an on-demand uh, session for yourself and say, hey, I want to watch cricket highlights at 2 o'clock in the morning. And another person prefers to watch it live as a long series match. So there are a whole bunch of things that really happened in this country because of access. Telecom liberalization policy created the opportunity for people to connect to the grid. That's one. And then with access to internet, the whole world opened up. Now there are demands created for products that nobody had ever heard about. There are niche markets created or specialty markets created, specialty products created for people to take advantage of because they have access to information and access to global media. Uh, this is what encompasses everything. And if you start looking at numbers, uh, online transactions, all those things, again, state bank reports numbers, e-commerce association reports numbers, digital associations, all these places report numbers. But what do these numbers really mean? How do you use them in advancing your business? That's the key factor, right? So if you look at it from a different lens, what you're focusing on is access to audiences which are relevant to you. Now, in more recent times, I've slightly shifted my thought process in a different direction also, where I'm beginning to suggest that we should not also look at narrowly targeting audiences. Now, in the old days, again, going back to the days of PTV in Pakistan, there was one channel, everybody watched it, and every advertiser wanted to be on it. And the reason was it provided access of its time. It was one-way communication for sure, but everybody saw the ad. So the kid who was forced to watch a drama between 8 and 9 p.m. was also forced to watch the ads. Now, if a shampoo brand decided to put an ad out during that 1 hour window, they would probably access more than one person, more than the intended audiences. So a 6-year-old will probably not play a vital role in deciding what shampoo the mother bought or the father bought. But at the same time, it created a lasting impression. There was brand recognition, there was exposure to communication by the brand, and all these things. One thing that made uh, that specific time slot inaccessible to smaller advertisers or newer businesses was the cost. Now, in digital world, that cost has gone down significantly lower. From creating an ad to putting it out there to reaching your audiences. Now, at the same time, narrow targeting will restrict the audience. Of course, it creates efficiencies. So if you have an intended buyer, you have that space to address that intended buyer. You have a higher incidence of conversion. But at the same time, when you're operating within a square box, what you're also doing is not creating exposure for people. So whenever my advice to new businesses is whenever you're deciding to go active with your marketing campaigns and you want to use digital, don't initially look at just the cost of access. Also look at what it's going to create for you in the long run. So let's say if you are a bank people can't open bank accounts if they're below the age of 18. That's the general consensus. But if you look at digital wallets, they do allow juvenile accounts as well. That means earlier access to a bank account or exposure to a bank account. So if you're only focused on targeting 18, 19, 20, 25 year olds to create mobile wallets, what you're doing is you're losing the fringe audiences as well. So there are people who will be, let's say, over the age of 50 who would still want to use digital wallet. In the grand scheme of things, the digital wallet might decide, hey, I don't want audiences of 50 plus, but at the same time, you're also losing the audiences of 50 plus because eventually an 18-year-old might receive money from a 25-year-old or from a 50-year-old or a 60-year-old. Okay. Now, look at how e-commerce has evolved in Pakistan. So 15 years ago, nobody would have thought about quickly delivering groceries to somebody's doorstep, right? It became a fancy buzzword, quick commerce, set up a shop, send products over very, very quickly. And that created an entire industry, entire genre of product and service. But at the same time, we do not dissect the audience further. How's that? We look at an individual who's using the internet. So we assume younger people use the internet. We will put an ad on YouTube. That's perfectly fine. We are targeting an audience of, let's say, 18 to 24. Okay, that's good. That works. But who takes the decision for ordering the product? It's not the 24-year-old. The 24-year-old might act as an influencer, may later become a customer. That's fine. But necessarily, you will need to talk to the decision maker. In certain products, in certain industries, the decision makers are different from the influencers, right? So focusing on a narrow set of audience can always create issues. But at the same time, the cost of advertising, the cost of impression is so low that you can blanket the market without wasteful expenditure. But you have to make sure that you're also addressing the fringe audiences. You cannot very narrowly focus the audiences to a level that nobody else knows about. There are products in the world. So a lot of people talk about, and if you're on social media, you probably have seen videos or posts about why Rolls-Royce doesn't advertise in standard television ads or standard online ads. Why don't private jets focus on advertising an audience in Pakistan? There are people who operate private jets in Pakistan also, and this is something that used to happen in the old world. Now, processing that information, pushing that information out there, also creates a set of audiences for consumption of content. And at the tail end of it is a brand that is attached to it. So let's say if Bombardier or Learjet or Challenger wanted to advertise in Pakistan, yes, they would prefer to talk to only 5 people who could afford to buy those jets. But at the same time, there is a fringe audiences that will be in awe of what that entitlement brings to the table as well. So recognition is also part of what a brand is all about. So with the low cost of advertising, you can pretty much do anything you want. So if you look at it from an entrepreneur standpoint, budgets are limited, pre-seed funds are limited. Even when you get investments, the amount of money is always controlled, limited, set to KPIs. So start setting your KPIs in such a way that your communication does not suffer. So if you're testing a smaller market, that's brilliant, that's fine. But at the end of the day, the business is about scaling the opportunity for yourself and for the industry as well. First, the e-commerce outfit probably thought, hey, I will have 10 customers, maybe 20, maybe 50. But at the same time, when 50 startups started talking about e-commerce, the ballgame changed. And the access to information, access to content, and access to advertising, all of it shaped the environment slightly differently for people. So our telecom liberalization policy initially put mobile handsets in people's hand. I'm old enough to remember when people used to buzz you and hang up, missed call phenomena, and that is where it all started. When incoming calls became free, that means you could pick up the phone. Okay, that created an access. When call costs went down, that created an access. Okay, Mobile handsets became cheaper. Again, may not be in terms of price point. I think the first cellular phone sold in Pakistan was about quarter of a million rupees initially back in the early 90s. Today, you can't buy an iPhone for that amount or a high end Android phone. But at the same time, a lot of people do buy that kind of product, right? Because there is a certain amount of status involved. How can entrepreneurs use that information? So, again, taking a small piece of information, in Pakistan, about 2% of all cellular devices connected to the grid are iOS devices. What does that tell you about people? So, 100 and almost 200 million people, only 2%, but that still gives you an audience of about 4 million people in a country. There are countries in Europe that have a grand total population of less than that amount. Okay. So look at nation states or many nation states we've created within Pakistan in the connected audience grid. Now, talking to those people, you either they can afford a brand new iPhone, okay, for to pay duties on it, and afford to carry it around at the same time, right? So these are the people who give you a certain amount of status. On the other side, there's a second hand or a secondary market for cell phones where people do buy secondary phones or used phones. They still have a certain amount of information that is tagged to it, which nobody looks at. These are people who who want to get there, who want to be seen with a status as well. Now that's an audience that can be addressed as well. When startups are looking at markets, dissecting the audiences, they also need to focus on all these aspects as well. Okay. Now, creating those many pockets, uh, targeting those pockets creates opportunities. You can further enhance your marketing capabilities based on the information or the feedback you get from them. So let's say simple journey. Somebody walks into a bank branch, wants to open a bank account. There are 10 different forms that are handed over to that person, and this person decides, hey, I'm not going to bother. Sees an ad for Jazz Cash, Easy Pesa, any one of these mobile wallets. I said, hey, this is simpler. I will simply sit at home, download an app, set up an account. Now look at the progression how these mobile wallets are creating financial inclusion. So the initial account doesn't really require that much of information. So it starts getting you transacting. But when you go to a physical bank or open a physical bank account, they want all the information upfront. They want you to fill out 20 pages, give photocopies, give references, do all kinds of stuff, and then come back a week later to find out, hey, it is still going to take some time. With uh, digital access, with mobile wallets, you can do stuff instantaneously and transact instantaneously. So taking advantage of that information as well. Now, again, these mobile wallets have also created opportunities for entrepreneurs by allowing them to collect payments, digital payments. That's another important factor. Now, if you look at cost of collection of funds, you're an e-commerce outfit, you want to sell your product, you have two options: cash on delivery or pay now through plastic or a digital wallet, and create that opportunity. Now, if you look at the customer journey, there is a stage when somebody buys a product which is called post-purchase dissonance. Now, this is a factor that automobile industry has worked out very hard to resolve by launching the 3S service: sales, service, and spare. So they want you hooked in, and they want to make sure that you don't feel bad about spending that kind of money, buying a car, and saying, hey, uh, is there an option for me to get out of this? The dealership says, hey, I will give you service, I'll give you spares as well, so make sure that you continue to use my product. Now, how do we translate that information in the e-commerce world? Is you go on a website. So you've seen an ad, you go on a website, you like that product, you read the information, and you put it in your basket. A lot of people abandon their carts. So we came back uh, to the fact that, hey, we need to look at data coming in from abandoned carts and talk to these guys because they have shown a certain level of intent and engagement. Then going further, so this person decides to buy the product. They have two options: pay now or pay later as cash delivery. So what that is doing is when you do cash on delivery, you've created an opportunity for the customer to back off. Okay. Now that is what costs any online transaction or any online merchant a lot of grief. 30, 40, 60, at times 80% plus of the product comes back. Now that adds to the cost. Now people blame marketing and communication for higher cost. No, it is allied costs that also have an impact. So if from day one you decide, hey, I will not do cash on delivery, I will have a smaller market, but I will have maybe 5%, 10% return incidences as compared to cash on delivery return instances. What you're also doing is creating an opportunity for your product to be lost in transit. So there's a return leg. You're sending product from point A to point B, there's a certain amount of risk. And then from point B back to point A, you're compounding that risk. So what you need to do is make sure that you're also minimizing your leakages that way. Cash flowing in from point A to point B is the product, and from point B to point A is your compensation for that product. Okay. So you sold 100 rupees worth of product, the customer pays 100 rupees. By the time you get it, it's not 100 rupees. It is less than 100 rupees because there's a certain amount of charge that the collection is going to cost you. Okay. Now, a lot of people look at online payments as just cost because there's a merchant discount. So when you sign up for a credit card, they do an MDR, a merchant discount rate. Let's assume it's 3%. So out of 100 rupees, you will end up paying 3 rupees to the service provider who's the intermediary. A lot of people do not calculate the cost of that COD. So from point B to point A, you are charging 100 rupees, but you're also incurring a cost. Nobody really calculates the amount of cost. So that's another leakage that you need to look at. Okay. And from a communication standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, pay instantly, pay seamlessly, and it's done. It's an official transaction that is recorded. You probably have faced or heard about or know people who have been scammed by these so-called fake messages that come in. Hey, there's your product. You need to pay up, and there are incidences where you've not paid, and somebody comes in and says, "Hey, the bill is for X amount, however, it was supposed to be Y amount," and you end up paying that amount as well, or refusing delivery. So either way, either the reputation is suffering or your cost is impacted. So you need to make sure that you're looking at all these things and making sure that everything is very tightly controlled in an environment where there will always be leakages. Packages will be lost in transit. Cash could be lost in transit. There could be an error on the bank front in credit card charges. So everything is a cost to the business. And for a business which is in nascent stages or very early startups, these costs tend to add up. And when you scale, you're focusing on basically one aspect of the business. What you're not looking at is how your costs will scale. So if you can control these costs in the beginning, you know exactly where to look and to make sure that you continue to improve your margins rather than reduce your margins based on these leakages. So that is one element that we need to do. Okay, Zubia, if there are any questions, feel free to jump in. And I'm not following the chat. If there are people who want to jump in, please go ahead.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much. You have explained things so, in detail. So the session is already going very wonderful. Yes, I have a few questions. The question I have from the audience is, what's your view on hiring a marketing agency versus building an in-house team early on?
Okay, this is a chicken and egg situation. Okay, now when you look at starting a business, it usually starts with a brilliant idea that you're trying to solve a problem for yourself. Okay, in most cases, that's what I've seen with entrepreneurs in Pakistan. Hey, I could not buy good outfits, so I started making outfits. I could not get a product delivered to me, so I created a solution for that. So that's one aspect. So it is always good to have professionals advise you or work for you. Now, hiring an agency to do that work versus hiring an individual or a team of people within your own myths or within your own organization is also a solution. Everything is dependent on cost. Now, there are experts for everything. So if you hire a right marketing agency or a digital agency as a partner, that's a very good thing. So do your due diligence and hire an agency. If you decide to go the other way and build an in-house marketing team, you have to do the same level of due diligence. The advantage an external service provider gives you is that you don't have to worry about managing other elements to it. So you can hire a person for X amount of salary, but that person can fall sick and your entire marketing strategy will collapse. Uh, that person gets, God forbid, hit by a bus. You don't have any passwords, you don't have anything. What are you going to do about it? Okay. So there are always challenges. There's a pro and con for each one of them. But initially, my recommendation would be to hire good service providers as partners and start learning the trade. Focus on what you're good at. If you're a marketing person, communication person, you still need to run a business. What what level of attention can you give to your marketing and communication strategy or execution when you have to worry about logistics, when you have to worry about hiring, when you have to worry about finances, and pretty much everything else under the sun? So get good marketing partners. Time will come in to put your in-house experts for sure. Another element that an external agency offers as an advantage is that it brings in a variety of experience also. Now, this is an advantage. If you start looking at pricing that experience, no internal team can match that. You will have people, and in 2 years, they will only know what your business is, and they will not know what's happening in the environment. Okay, you can't afford to change people every year or 2 years or 3 years. What you need to do is focus on delivering the value you're building and take value from other businesses which are out there to help you grow. I hope that covers it, Sophia.
Yes, perfectly. Perfectly. It has covered the answer question. And the next question is how should founders track success or failure in digital campaigns?
Okay, so first of all, set your objective. Once your objective is set, you're advertising online, let's say, to tell people about your business, about your brand, about your product. So measure it based on that. How many people do you want to reach? How many times do you want to reach that person? So reach and frequency, that's important. So if your objective is set on reach and frequency, you can easily measure it. If your objective is to sell the product and count conversions, then reach and frequency may not be the right benchmark for you to assess. What you need to look at is how much is it going to cost you per conversion? How much incremental cost is going to be to get more conversion, or what efficiencies you can build in reducing your costs. So set your benchmarks day one. You can't have it, you basically, the saying goes, right? You can't have a cake and eat it too. So you set your benchmarks, you move along in that direction. Your benchmarks could be wrong, okay, but your objective needs to be right. Once you have an objective, you can experiment, you can tweak. With digital, the beauty of it is that you can experiment on a smaller scale. In the conventional world or the old world of television, radio, and print, thing was, once you take out an ad in the newspaper, it's done. That's it. It's gone for the next 24 hours. That's going to be face of your company. And I've spent a lot of time in advertising and communication. I know of a lot of horror stories for another day, another time. But people make mistakes. It happens. On digital, correcting those mistakes is very quick, very swift, and not as expensive as it would be. You've shot a commercial, it doesn't come out right, it's sitting in a can. Digital production is much cheaper, quickly accessed, quickly delivered, quickly removed.
Great, great. Thank you very much, Mr. Faisal, for such a detailed discussion. And I hope our viewers will learn a lot from it. And on behalf of CXO Global Forum and NICAT, we wish you more and more success in your life. Thank you
Thank you
once
very
again.
much, Zubi. Thank you, Zubia.
Okay, so in the end, viewers, I would request to please connect with Mr. Faisal on LinkedIn and connect with CXO Global Forum and NICAT for more guest speaker sessions. So, inshallah, see you soon with another amazing guest speaker session. See you till then. Take care. Allah Hafiz.